Aloha, I'm Sabrina with Begin Being, the channel dedicated to guiding you to being the best version of you, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, with our ultimate goal to help you remember who you are and why you are truly here. Now, in this video, we are going to be discussing the 8 ways that you know you are in the 5D reality, the New Earth energy. Now, first of all, what is this New Earth 5D thing that many people in the esoteric community are talking about? Basically, what is happening is there's a shift. So there's a shift from the old, what people call 3D, what has been labeled 3D world, into a higher vibrational energy. So basically, the Earth and its inhabitants are moving to a higher vibration. Now, from a scientific perspective, one of the theories is that so everybody knows that the Earth revolves around the sun. Well, it's not like a circle, it's an ellipse. So at a certain point, the Earth is closer to the sun in its orbit, and at a certain point, it's like further away. So what happens is that when you get further away, it kind of slows down, and as you get closer, it speeds up. So it kind of is going like, now I'm exaggerating this, it doesn't quite change its speed like that much, but it gets slower out here and faster here due to the gravitational pull. Well, a similar thing is happening with our solar system. So we have the Milky Way galaxy, and then we have our solar system, it's like out of one of the arms. And the solar system is evolving around the Milky Way galaxy, similar to how the Earth is evolving around the sun. Now, this evolution takes about 230 million Earth years, and that's considered one galactic or one cosmic year. Now, our solar system has done this 20 times, so it's like 20 galactic years old. Now, the last time this happened was actually at the very beginning of the Jurassic period. So the last time we evolved around and we were at the point where we are right now in the last revolution around, we were in the Jurassic period. And at the same time, all of the land mass, it used to just be like one continent. And so it was one continent called Pangaea. And during this time, it was starting to break apart. So a lot of major change was happening during the last time that our solar system was at this point in its revolution around the galactic year. Now, what does this have to do with it? Well, one of the theories is that, like I said, just like when the Earth is going around the sun, at a certain point it's closer. Well, right now, the solar system is closer to the galactic center than it is in a different part of its orbit, which means things are speeding up. Now, as a student of both astronomy and astrology, this actually makes a lot of sense. The way planetary bodies can affect us, the way gravitational pulls can affect us, it would make sense that things are like vibrating at a different level and that things are speeding up. Now, before we go any further, I want to clear something up. So there are some who say like, oh yeah, sure, we're in the 3D, 5D, we're in the 5D, like you guys just want to feel special. It's just ego. It's just every generation wants to feel special. Here's the thing though. A lot of people who initially talked about that this was going to happen during this time, they're actually no longer with us. So a lot of people who wrote books about it, who talked about this time period that we were going to go through, who talked about the different waves of, souls coming in to be able to help during this time, they're no longer with us. So just wanted to kind of put that out there, as I don't really believe it's a part of a particular generation like wanting to feel special or wanting to feel like, oh, this is the time. I think it simply just is. Because again, most of the people who were talking about it, who predicted this, who did the research to find that this was coming, aren't here to, I feel special, I guess. Okay, and there's also a second part to this whole thing, in that some people believe that some people are saying that there's like this 3D and this 5D, and at a certain point, like right now, you can kind of go back and forth between the two. And at a certain point, it's almost like you're going to have to choose one or the other. one of the ways to think of it is like we're all at a train station right now. Well, we're a little bit ahead of that, but a little while ago we were all at a train station. And there's train A and train B, or maybe in this case it's train 3 and train 5. And right now they're kind of like running parallel to each other. So you can be on one train and you can see over to the other train. And you can actually jump between the two trains too. So you can kind of jump back and forth. Now, a lot of people are in a consensus that at a certain point, these trains are going to start veering off and they won't be able to see each other anymore. And you're going to have to make a choice of which one you want to be on. Now, here's my theory of why that's possibly happening. So when you think of evolution, and whether you're religious or not, I don't believe that there is a like us versus them mentality when it comes to evolution versus like a creation, God, stuff like that. I think personally it can be both. So you can choose to believe in one or the other. And I think if you do believe in God or one of the other names for God, and you believe in creation, well, why couldn't God create evolution? So for example, when you're a kid and you're learning how to draw, the first thing you do is you draw like a little stick figure. You don't all of a sudden just draw a masterpiece. First, you're drawing like a little stick for an arm and, you know, the little body and little sticks for legs. And then you advance to a point to where like maybe now you're drawing like 2 lines. So instead of just 1 line for the arm, you now have like 2 lines. And then maybe you start coloring it in. So you put some color into the arm and then maybe you do some shading. Okay, so you're advancing, and then maybe you make a masterpiece. Well, perhaps God, or you know, whoever you would call God, perhaps that being did the same thing. Maybe they started with a bacteria and went up and then finally was like, oh, here's humans, perfect. All right, I'm done, peace out. All right, maybe that's a little bit silly, but still, same thing. I don't see why that there can be a conflict between the two. Now, in the beginning, our evolution was more physical. So you've all heard of like the typical 5 senses, right? You have visual, auditory, kinesthetic, which is like touch, olfactory, which is smell, gustatory, which is taste. And then more recently, they've started to add some different ones like balance, temperature, and proprioception. Now, proprioception is your ability to like know where you are in a given space. It's the reason why if you close your eyes, you can still touch your finger to your nose because you have a spatial awareness. Now, interestingly, even though we weren't necessarily like taught that as one of the 5 senses as a kid, that was actually one of the first ones to develop. So bacteria were, you know, swimming around in the ocean and stuff, and their first sense was to be able to know kind of where they are in relation to things that they needed, like food sources and stuff like that. Now, as time evolved, as creatures evolved, or perhaps as their creator was getting better at creating, they developed more and more and more senses. And they also developed from, you know, say the bacteria to fish to reptiles to amphibians. Wait, I just said that backwards. Amphibians to reptiles and then mammals. And of course, I'm majorly oversimplifying that, but here's the thing. The early organisms, they had proprioception. They started to develop smells, taste, but they couldn't see. Now here's what's happening. We're evolving. So one of the things that I do is I do live training. So I teach NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming, and Huna. And at the trainings, we teach people about their 4 bodies. So you basically have 4 bodies. You have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body. Now in the beginning, there was a lot of physical evolution. So, you know, you went from like the bacterias to the fish to the amphibians, got it right this time, to the reptiles and so on. And again, I'm oversimplifying this, but that's what we were doing from a physical perspective. And we got to humans and it was like, ooh, this is pretty nice. And what happened is we started developing other things besides our physical. So we moved more into an emotional development. And the emotional development actually started even before humans, because even animals have things like fear. They have different emotions like that. And actually, that's one of the reasons why fear is one of the main emotions that we feel. And in order to move from 3D to 5D, that's one of the things that we have to work on. One of the things that we teach through NLP is a thing called breakthrough sessions, which is basically a way to be able to get rid of all of your negative emotions and your limiting beliefs. So it's a way to, heal what's going on inside of you, and a way to kind of start the move from stepping out of the 3D over into the 5D. So getting rid of those, negative emotions and not feeling those, or dealing with them when they come up in a healthy way, is one of the reasons why we're starting to evolve. Is because humans, we're realizing that there are other ways to be able to handle our emotions besides just, get pissed off and hit things. Me, caveman. Okay, anyway, so then we went into more of a mental evolution. So if you think about animals, the majority of them, they don't have a lot of thought. They're more instinct-based. So humans, though, and other species as well, you see it in a lot of different forms of apes, like the monkeys, dolphins. So with the development of the mental body, humans started being able to do things like think. They started to be able to reason. They started to be able to, have an imagination and create and do all those sort of things. Well, now we're moving more into a spiritual evolution. Now here's why the split. Why some will go on to 5D and why some will stay into 3D. Because here's the thing. Not everyone or everything evolves. Think about this. Okay, so whenever there was first bacteria and then, fast forward to fish, there's still bacteria. Fast forward from fish to amphibians, there's still fish. Fast forward from amphibians to, you get the point. Not every part of the species evolves. You can actually see evolution happening. If you were born, or if you were alive and remember the early 2000s, which if you're watching this, you probably do, but during that time period, there was a species of cat, or a breed of cat, that evolved spontaneously on its own. And there was a big news thing about it at the time. But what happened is that there was these group of cats, they were like barn type cats, and spontaneously one of them was born with completely different characteristics from its siblings. So none of the siblings evolved, but this one cat did. And its hair or fur is like a totally different texture. It's like really kinky and curly. Personality is completely different. It's almost more like a dog type personality, like it follows you around and stuff like that. So in our own lifetime, we watched an animal spontaneously evolve, but that doesn't mean that every single cat became a curly-haired cat. In fact, some of that cat's babies still had the old genetics and were not curly-haired cats, but some of them were. So just as when you physically evolve, your entire species doesn't physically evolve. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to enjoy fish or anything else that we eat, really. We wouldn't be, I guess we'd be cannibals, there we go. So not every one of us is going to go from 3D to 5D. Some of us will stay, and that's why the split in the trains. And that's why eventually there will be some people who are on a completely different spiritual path, a different spiritual evolution than others. And some will stay, just like there are still apes. And part of the reason why not everyone will evolve is because not everyone believes it's real. So for example, I made a video a while back on proofs that energy work, it's real. Proofs that you can communicate with someone energetically. And in that video, I mentioned how at one point no one believed that you could communicate through the air. Like, no one believed that you could use airwaves to be able to communicate. And one person in particular, he was talking about, he like wrote an anonymous article about the invention of like a telegram. And he wasn't specifically talking about a telegram, but he was talking about the type of energy that you would use in order to be able to invent it. And at the time, people were like, okay, yeah, whatever. From that point that he mentioned that, it took 1,000 years for us to get to the point where we actually believed in the technology that you can transmit energy through wave signals. So now a similar thing is happening, but instead of through technology, it's through our own evolution. Synchronistically, yes, that is now a word, as I was thinking about this video, the universe, and I'll talk more about the importance of the universe later in this video, and actually in a whole video series that I'll be doing as well. But the universe presented me with an article, and this particular article, the author believed that we're like developing a new sense, and he called this new sense perception, like the ability to have better perception. And I just smiled and laughed when I was reading this article, because I was like, oh my goodness, like, thank you, universe. This is exactly what I had been thinking in my mind of, it's almost as if as we move into this 5D reality, we're getting a different perception of what's happening within ourselves and the world around us. So one of the things that I teach is this concept called perception is interpretation, or another way of saying it is perception is projection. So in other words, what's happening in your life, you perceive what's happening. So it could be, a person like walking their dog. You're perceiving the person walking the dog. Now your projection onto that could be completely neutral. Just, oh, here's a person walking a dog. Or it could be like longing, like say you really want a dog. And so you're like, oh, I really want a dog. Why can't I have a dog? Or it could be maybe you broke up with somebody and they had a dog and you're like, don't even talk to me about, get that dog out. I hate dogs, right? Maybe like a dog attacked you or something. So the reality, the neutral part is there's a person walking by with their dog. And then you project different things onto that. With moving into the 5D, it's almost as if our perception is more of reality. It's more of neutrality. There's a person walking a dog. Instead of judging that person walking the dog, or instead of judging yourself or a situation around walking the dog. So as you're moving into 5D, it's almost as if you're seeing things the way they really are, more than before. And it's kind of like there's 3 stages you go through. The first stage often, from a lot of people, comes with conspiracy theories. So it's kind of like a lot of people's aha moment or their wake up moment is something happens and then they do some research. Maybe something comes into their lives, maybe a friend, maybe a YouTube video, maybe a book, and they're like, hold on, wait a minute. You're telling me that this over here happened, but what about this? This doesn't add up. Like 2 plus 2 is not 5. So you kind of start to go down these little conspiracy theory rabbit holes. With some people, that comes with like getting high and discussing whether or not we landed on the moon. Other people do it in different ways, but that's one of the things that often kind of is like the first stage to transitioning from one to the other. Sometimes it can be like a change in your life. For instance, maybe perhaps you were like eating really unhealthy or being very physically unhealthy, and then all of a sudden you start eating well, you start exercising, and it changes your body. It changes the energy in your body. So that can be another way that sometimes people start realizing, hold on, things aren't what they seem. Why have I been told that all of these different foods are like good for me and they're not? So you kind of start seeing things from a different perspective. And then it's like you enter stage 2, which is the learner stage. So you start going down these rabbit holes. You watch a bunch of YouTube videos. You do a bunch of personal growth and development. You go to trainings. You go to seminars. You go to workshops. You do all this work on you because you're learning, hold on, there's another way to be. And then it's like you go into a third stage. So then at this third stage, you become more of an observer. You're still learning, so you're still doing the things that make you grow. So you're still out there learning, and now it's at a higher level though. And now you're more of at the level of the observer. So those are kind of some of the three stages that you can go through as you're transitioning from 3D to 5D. Now let's get into the 8 ways that you know that you are in or you are moving to the 5D reality, that higher vibration. And the number 1 is you. So you start working on yourself. You start realizing, hey, I am here for a reason. I am here for a purpose. And you start to realize that you chose this. So you chose to incarnate into this body, into this lifetime. You chose your parents. You chose the different things that you were going to go through because your soul came in here wanting to learn lessons. So you take responsibility, you be at cause, you take responsibility for what's going on in your life because maybe you didn't choose that bad experience, that specific bad experience. However, you did choose the lessons that come from it. So the more you own what's happening to you and realize it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, that moves you closer to the 5D reality. And with that, you stop judging yourself. You stop saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not whatever enough. Because you are. And you also stop judging others. So you move out of that mentality of like, oh, yeah, well, you know, but that person, no, they're not good enough. Because they're doing their best. They're doing their best with the resources that they have. They're doing their best with their knowledge. Even if they're in 3D, they're still doing their best. That was a joke. Number 2, you start feeling negative emotions differently. So not only are you working to alleviate, to like heal your negative emotions, but once you heal the negative emotions, you then start reacting to your emotions differently. So I'm in no way saying that you're just never going to have a negative emotion again. This year, my grandma passed away. I'm going to feel sad. And that's actually part of it is so many people, they think, oh no, I can't feel negative emotions. They're bad. Like, get them away. I'm not supposed to feel that. And, you know, they go see somebody and they take a pill to numb themselves and no longer feel it. It's okay to be sad. It's perfectly normal to be sad. The difference is how you react to those negative emotions. So a bad thing happens to you, you're not going to go like, oh boy, my boyfriend broke up with me, or, you know, whatever it might be. You're not going to be like, yes, this bad thing happened. I'm so happy because I'm in 5D. That's not the way it works. You're still going to be, angry if somebody disrespects you or treats you in a way that they shouldn't be. You're still going to be sad if someone, passes or hurts you in some way. You're still going to have those. The difference is how you react or overreact to them. And the difference is seeing it from that observer point of view. So seeing it from, okay, this is happening. What is the lesson that I need to learn? So you start to learn the lessons when you experience the negative emotions, because that's ultimately what's happening, is that you're in the process of learning a lesson. So you start getting your lessons faster, and you start thinking to yourself, okay, maybe this is a pattern that I'm repeating. So say an example like the boyfriend broke up with you. Well, what sometimes people will do is they'll get into a new relationship and it's like boyfriend 2.0. Well, the boyfriend 2.0 is like the same person that you had a problem with the last time. When you're moving into more of the 5D reality, you realize, oh, this is why it didn't work between me and that person. And this time I'm going to make a different choice because I learned that lesson with the other person. So you're basically experiencing your negative emotions in a different way, in a more healthier way, in a positive way, to deal with them, to be able to accept them and accept yourself for who you are. Number 3, oneness. So you step out of that us versus them type mentality, so that me versus the other person, this political party versus this political party, this country versus this country. You step outside of the me versus them type of mentality. Ooh, my sports team versus that other sports team. So it's more of being oneness with each other and realizing that we are all one. We are from one source. Whether you believe that source started as a bacteria or whether you believe that source created the bacteria. Either way, the Big Bang, assuming that theory is true, it only happened one time. It spread out and all of us were created from that. So instead of having, I am different from them, therefore we can't get along, or, you know, they like this political party and I like this political party and therefore we can't get along. Instead, you just simply see, oh, okay, they like that political party and I like mine. And overall though, here's the thing, ultimately, person A and person B, what they're really wanting is what's best for the country. What this particular country is wanting and what this particular country is wanting is what's really best for their people. And it's the same thing. Ultimately, when you have any kind of discussion, it all goes back to the same thing. So realizing that oneness and stepping out of the us versus them type of mentality and stepping away from there has to be a winner or a loser. Realizing there's always a third option. Nothing is ever binary. Nothing is ever black and white. There's always a third option. Number 4, become the observer instead of just a reactor. Now, we've been sort of talking about this observer part of it, and it's basically being able to step outside of your own cycles and rhythms, of your own patterns. So we all go through different cycles and rhythms, like we all go through different patterns that we kind of start to repeat throughout our life. It's being able to observe and recognize, ooh, hey, that's a pattern I have. That's like the first step. And then you realize the pattern, like you recognize it. But most of us, we don't just be like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Most of the time what happens is we first recognize there's a pattern, and then we go and all of a sudden we start realizing like, ooh, I am doing that pattern. Like maybe you get into an argument or something, you're like, ooh, this is what I do, this is my pattern, but you still do it anyway. As you progress, now you can start to see the pattern and you're like, ooh, you start to see it, you start to do it, and then you're able to kind of stop it as you're in the middle of doing it. And then you get even further along the path, and then right before you start to do the pattern, you recognize you're about to do the pattern, you no longer do it, and then eventually you no longer do the pattern again. Then you work on the next pattern. But basically you start to become an observer, not just of yourself, what's going on inside of you, but what's going on outside of you as well. So in the example of like the political thing, like say you see two people having this debate over, you know, which is better, who's better. You can then start to observe that and notice, they're actually just saying the same thing. They actually just want the same thing. So instead of getting involved, instead of saying, no, you're right, or no, you're right, or saying like, you're both wrong, or why are you guys arguing about this again? Why do you care about what sports team is winning? You're so 3D. That's actually 3D. Instead, if you're just simply observing, oh, they like to fight over what sports team is winning. Oh, they like to fight over what political party is doing what today. You're just simply observing. And now you're curious. Now you're curious as to why that is so important to them. Or if you're going into an old pattern, or if you're getting into an old discussion or situation, you can be curious, why did I react that way? Why did I do that? Isn't there a better way? Is there some other way I could have handled that situation that wouldn't have caused it to blow up the way it did? Or say you accidentally hurt somebody, because that happens, right? Now you can observe and think, oh, how could I have handled that situation differently to where I didn't accidentally say or do whatever it was that you did or said? So it's that observer, being able to just kind of observe your surroundings from a higher perspective. And number 5, others fall out of your life. This can be a little bit of a tough one. So what can happen is as you go more to 5D and they go more toward 3D, like I said, eventually the trains are kind of going like this. When they're like this, you can't see them anymore. So what tends to happen when you're going through this evolutionary stage is that people tend to drop out of your life. All of a sudden, they no longer contact you. Or you really mean to contact them, but different things happen and you end up not doing it. And it's just simply because you're no longer on the same path. And an easy way to think about this is when you're kids, sometimes you have the whole class is your friend, like in kindergarten, the whole class is your friend. And then as you kind of get older, you develop different personalities. And some people, they're interested in this thing, and some people, they're interested in that thing. So take a really, this often happens I think it maybe happened more so in the past. There's not as much of a gender divide as there used to be. But previously, especially parents, they were like, oh, you guys, you are boys. Like, you have to hang out with the boys. Like, you're girls. You have to hang out with the girls. And so at a certain point, like in elementary school, your best friends might have been like the opposite sex, and then you start to kind of develop into different things. Like, now you're over there like playing with Barbies, if you're like a girl maybe, and you're playing dress up or something. And then the boys, they're told to play with, maybe like a football or something like that. And so, like I said, this is changing, probably in part to do with a lot of the 5D stuff. But when I was a kid, that was kind of like the mentality that was happening. And so sometimes it's just as simple as your interests change, because the other person that can be a good friend of yours liked to go out and be at clubs like every night and stay up really late. Well, now maybe you're getting up early in the morning to like meditate or something, and the other person's like, why are you meditating? Like, that's so boring. And so you kind of start to drift apart. So number 5, others kind of fall out of your life. Number 6, trust, or some people call this faith. But you just start to develop a trust in yourself. You start to trust your intuition. You trust your gut. The Hawaiians call it your na'au. And actually, interestingly, the Hawaiians believed that the most knowledgeable person in the room, or in the area, it wasn't somebody who studied a lot, or wasn't the most knowledgeable person from a perspective of learning and that type of knowledge. The wisest person was someone who trusted their gut, someone who trusted their na'au. And that's what you start to develop whenever you're going more into the 5D, is you start to trust in yourself and your intuition and your instincts and that gut feeling of going for it, of being able to say, this other stuff, it's not serving me anymore. I want to go more towards something that is serving me. And as you start to trust your gut, as you start to trust yourself and your intuition, you also start to trust the universe. Whatever that is for you, whatever your source is, whether that's, you call it God or the, spirit or anything like that, or any of the other names for God. Whatever your source is, the universe, you start to trust in that. And you start to trust that there is a path that you came here to experience. And that the universe, your source, knows that path even better than you do. Because when you came into this vessel, when you came in, you forgot everything. Or most people did, so people remember, but the majority of people, they forgot everything. They forgot why they're here. They forgot why they came in. They forgot what they were supposed to do while they were here. They forgot the lessons. And so the universe, it knows though. And so it's trusting that the universe is there to support you. It's trusting that whatever is going on with you is actually good for you. And yes, at a certain point, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult when something not so fun happens. You're not like, oh, thank you, I got in a car crash or whatever. You're not like, yes. You're not excited about that. However, you're trusting, okay, there's a purpose, there's a higher purpose, there's a reason for this. And you're trusting the universe knows what it is. And ultimately, it's giving you that lesson. Whatever was going on in your life, you're getting a lesson from it. So again, instead of things happening to you, things are happening for you. And with that, you start seeing more synchronicities. And you know that everything is there for your own growth. Number 7, my favorite. You start choosing love in all that you do. That's actually how I end all of my videos. If you watch all the way to the end, you'll hear me say, always choose love. And what that means is that in everything that you do it with love. Choose love. If you're having an argument with someone, stop. Take a step back and think, okay, if I were to do this with love, if I were to come at this situation, whatever is happening, whatever is going on, if I come at this with the energy of love, what would I do or say different? How would I be different? How would I be showing up different right now in this conversation? So I give you all that challenge. I challenge you the next time something difficult is happening, because it's easy to choose love when happy things are happening, right? It's easy to choose love during those times. But I give you all the challenge. Next time you're facing a difficult situation, ask, how do I do this with love? How do I face this? How do I go forward with love? See what happens. Let me know in the comments below. And number 8, the final way that you know you are moving into the 5D reality is because you watched this video all the way until this point. Okay, so it's almost sort of a joke and it's also not. So I'm being fun because being playful is actually a part of the 5D too. Maybe I should make that number 9 or something, but that's just in general. So, but seriously though, you did watch this video all the way up until that point, which means the universe, your source, has a message for you. And that message is, you're doing it. You're on that path. Keep going, keep growing, and stay on this train. So even though that is sort of silly, at the same time, it's true. Because if you were in the 3D reality, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. You probably wouldn't have clicked on it. So congratulations. These are the ways that you know how you are moving to the 5D reality, how you're on that 5D train. And we can all be here together. Comment in the video below, like comment in the comments below about, what does that look like for you? What has your experience been? And let's be here together. Let's support each other. Let's be here for each other and support each other through this transition. All right, well, mahalo for watching this video. If you've liked it, if you want to do some energy exchange, please subscribe, hit the notification button, like the video, share it with other people, especially those who you think are asking the same question. I have a ton of other videos. You can watch those as well too. All right, as always, in everything that you do, please choose love. Mahalo. Oh no, the battery. Okay, got a new battery. Hey, at least I saw it before it crashed. Okay, why do you like to strangle me so? But here's the thing. So the early organ. But here's the thing. So the early organisms, they couldn't, and my cat just knocked something off the table. I guess okay, no. Shh. 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 Good girl. I'm almost done. Shh. Hold on. Good girl. It's okay. Okay. Stop. The video ended because it was at that time. All right. It's because you watched this movie to the very end. Video, movie.